Alright, so this video is gonna be kind of like a ramble about why I am a little disappointed with the Ancient Gods Part 2. So I'll get the good things out of the way first. I like how they really encourage you to use certain mods in this expansion, like previously. Um, they've really encouraged the use of full auto shotgun, destroyer blade, remote detonation. They are really encouraged there. Not just through, the stone imp, um, and sending hordes of demons at you that you just full auto and just clear them all. And the destroyer blade, is just great at clearing all of that. Um, and I really like the aesthetic of the World Spear and um, Imora. I think they look fucking sick, especially once you're inside Imora. But here's the thing, it's a very different expansion to the Ancient Gods Part 1. And for that, it doesn't fit, right? I'll start off with saying I am not the best Doom player. I consider myself a big fan of the game. This is the best game I've ever played by far, right? And this does not taint it. I love the expansion and I played it in like a day. Yeah, and it's fantastic. I beat it on Nightmare, and I beat 2 of the escalation encounters, and yeah. So I think I have a fair bit to say about it. Alright, okay. First of all, the Sentinel Hammer, fucking amazing, although it could be nerfed a little, it's a bit overpowered right now. Um, Alright, okay, I'm just gonna start from the beginning, right? So, what did the Ancient Gods Part 1 set up? The Ancient Gods Part 1 basically told us, alright, we are gonna go hard on all the things that people loved about it that were at the same time controversial, right? So, look at the Marauder, right? Like, the biggest fuck you I've ever seen, and I love it, was in the trailer for Part 1, they showed 2 Marauders. I could hear all the fucking people at IGN just start, like, fucking losing their shit, right? Like, oh, 2 Marauders, what the hell? And, like, the ironic part is it ended up being one of the easier sections of that level, right? Um, the thing is that, like, it felt really difficult and it felt like a natural progression, but I don't know if it's just because we as a community have gotten better, or maybe I've gotten better, I'm not sure, but this DLC felt kinda easy in comparison to Part 1. And I'll get to the boss fight, don't worry about it. But yeah, the DLC felt kind of easy in comparison. And another thing is the tone, right? Like, the tone of the campaign, like the base campaign, was like this badass guy killing everything. And in the Ancient Gods Part 1, like the tone was like almost kind of scary, dude. It was like kind of thrilling because we were awaking these ancient gods, and fucking Malagog like lifting us up. Spoiler, sorry, in Part 1, but Malagog lifting us up to get the spears. Like, we were so tiny, and like it's kind of like Dark Souls, not just because of the difficulty, but because in Dark Souls you see these huge towering like legends, and you feel so tiny, and you feel like you shouldn't be there. You feel like alien, that's the thing. You feel like you shouldn't be there, and that's the kind of feeling I got with the Ancient Gods. Like, I was fighting and I was playing with powers beyond my imagination. I was like really on the edge of things I should not meddle with, like like I was like, holy shit, when the Slayer destroyed the Father's spear and took the Dark Lord. Like, I got what he was trying to do, but at the same time I was like, holy shit, Slayer, are you actually gonna do this? Like, it felt scary, and then just being in the Hold, like the Hold has to be like one of the best looking locations, just because it's like a corrupted Urdak, and it just looks so cool, and it feels like you shouldn't belong here. Like, and then with the Ancient Gods Part 2, like the cutscene you start off with is you shoot the motherfucker, which is like kind of funny, and then he's like, alright, I'll see you there, and then you just teleport to the World Sphere for some reason. And like, what happens to the intern guy? he's relegated to like some expository dialogue and that's it. Like, where's the intern guy, right? Um, and it feels like the entire tone of it is just kind of like Endgame. It's like a superhero flick, and it didn't continue with the theme. I mean, like, look at the final boss of the Ancient Gods Part 1, like Samuel Hayden, right? Samus, I guess. Like, he transformed into this giant mutant creature, and then you felt like you were playing with powers you could not understood. You felt badass but tiny, and that was such a weird and thrilling feeling, right? You felt like you could take on everything, but you also felt like, except maybe this one thing you shouldn't like take up, you know? Like, holy shit, you're messing with gods and demons, and you're summoning literally Satan himself. Like, what if you fuck up? Like, it felt like a little bit like a horror, and a little bit like you were small, but at the same time you were badass. It really felt like you were fighting against everything. Like, even God himself is telling you like this is a bad idea, and it felt like you were fighting against that, and that was fucking cool, right? But well, the tone of the Ancient Gods Part 2 is kinda all over the place. Like the cutscenes, like when you get the hammer, I mean the hammer's fucking amazing. Like, I'm just gonna say it's like such a great addition, even though it's overpowered. But like the cutscene you get it's like not even a cutscene. Like, there was no build up, you just randomly get the hammer. There's like Valen was just like waiting there, it's like, hey dude, you want this hammer? They are like, sure. And like like you just got the hammer for nothing, like randomly. Like, at least in the campaign of the Crucible, you spent a whole mission just trying to get that Crucible, and it was badass. Like, in this one you're not even told about the hammer until you literally get to it, you know? And that was kind of jarring, right? And let's talk about the new demons. I'll pull out some of the new demons and talk about what I think about them. Okay, one thing the DLC really gets right, I really like the new traversal mechanics. I wasn't like the biggest fan, but I still kind of like the parkour in the campaign and Ancient Gods Part 1, but with the meat hook and the platforming has turned into something actually enjoyable with the super shotgun as well. So the platforming was great, right? Now, the Armored Baron, I don't know why, but the Armored Baron feels very easy to take out. Like, the window of time is like generous, and even if you don't hit it, like, the fact that he hits you isn't as devastating as, like, you know, like a Bloodmaker. If he hits you with that shit, it's like basically like devastating. You can't move, you're so slowed. Well, the Baron just does damage to you, and it's like not really much. And for some reason the Baron feels easier to kill than a regular Baron once his armor's out. I don't know, the new Armored Baron looks cool, but I think he could have been faster and more aggressive. And yeah, the Cursed Prowler. Now this is a devious enemy. The thing is, he didn't really get many chances to shine. Like, he maybe cursed me like 2 or 3 times when I was playing the first time around, and he was really annoying and running away. But he just seems like such a weird addition, and we should have seen more of him. And like, I didn't go against him enough to judge whether he is a good addition, but he's definitely something that you panic once he hits you, right? The Prowler, I'm not so sold on it. Okay, the demonic troopers. I bet you don't even know what I'm talking about here, because like, they are like imps that can't be glory killed or chainsawed, and they have no personality to them whatsoever. They're like ants, right? They just walk around and get shot and die. Like, you know, in the final level in Amora, like those things that you can't glory kill or you can't chainsaw, you just shoot them and they just disappear into like some ammo. Like, those were the troopers, and that's a new enemy type. A new enemy type that just dies, and that's just so lame. Like, what? Like, I don't even know what, even like a zombie has like good glory kills and chainsaw. Like, what's with this demonic trooper? Why is it there? Like, it makes no sense. Now, the Screecher. You know, the more I play, the more I really like the Screecher. I think the Screecher really added a new dynamic of like, you can't use your AoE weapons too close to it. You need to really like be able to focus an enemy down like with precision and not like hit the Screecher on accident. I like the Screecher, and I think they did some cool things with it, right? Now the Stone Imp. You know, I think the Stone Imp is a good addition, and yeah, I don't think the Stone Imp should be able to be chainsawed though. Like the fact you can chainsaw a Stone Imp is kind of cheesy, but yeah, the Stone Imp is pretty good. Now the Riot Soldier. Okay, I'll start talking about the enemies that require like specific weapon mods, right? So, the Stone Imp and the Riot Soldier slash Chain Gunner um, are the new enemies that require specific weapon mods. So you look at the Stone Imp, you know, the full auto shotgun is just really good against it, and I've always been using the full auto shotgun even in the base campaign and then in DLC part 1, and now, you know, it's just rewarding my playstyle. But what about people that got used to sticky bombing Caco Demons? It feels like the Stone Imp is like tuned in such a way that it's really inefficient to kill it any other way, which, like, I mean, you can use the hammer, but like, it's inefficient to kill it in any other way, and I don't know how it's gonna be for other players, but for me it turned out pretty okay. Now, the Riot Soldier encouraged you to use the remote detonation. It's basically that, right? And like the way the map was designed, it kind of made it feel like the lock-on burst wasn't as amazingly overpowered as it was in, well, the rest of Doom Eternal. So I think this was a good, like, kind of little push towards getting people to use remote det. And yeah, not much to say about it. But the thing is, I would like the Riot Soldier to be more aggressive, to really like push you, you know? And no, the Soldier didn't really do that. He didn't really push you, and he didn't really pressure you. He was just like an annoying like yellow fly on your screen that would just like distract you because it's so yellow. Like, what else is there to say? The escalation encounters are cool, although I feel like the Amora's escalation encounter was a bit too easy in my opinion. Like, for some reason, I don't know why, it just felt really easy. Yeah, basically like okay, to sum it all up before I get to the boss fight, which is like my biggest problem with the series, like with the DLC, right? Before I get to the boss fight, the tone is very different, and I was expecting like I would go up against ancient gods and fight against literally everything, and like I would feel small and tiny but also badass. So, like, I was against the entire fucking world. Like, not, I mean, technically we are against the entire Sea of Hell, but it's not in the same way. This is like a superhero flick. It's not like a horrifying, like against all odds kind of Dark Souls mood, you know, like part 1 setup. Like part 1 was kind of like a Lovecraftian in a sense, like with Samuel changing to that thing, with the whole looking so, you know, corrupted, and then with these ancient gods and this mystery. Like, it was so cool, and it just kind of took on like a superhero vibe in the second one, which it just kind of felt tonally off for me, right? The difficulty felt significantly easier. I remember struggling so much in part 1. Maybe I just got better, but I really do feel like part 1 is harder than part 2 in terms of like the difficulty curve. I do not know how that happened. But I did say positives about, I think the enemy types are good. Although again, they can be more aggressive. They can really force you to, you know, deal with them, right? Like the Baron, the Armored Baron should really be more aggressive and really pressure you, right? The Riot Soldier should really also, you know, pressure you. I think the Stone Imp is about there because the rolling attack is pretty strong. So I think the Stone Imp was like about well balanced, but the Riot Soldier and the Armored Baron could have been more aggressive. Overall, I did really like the parkour in part 2 as well. Okay, now's my biggest gripe with DLC, the boss fight. I was like both excited and terrified of fighting the Dark Lord, cause he would be like a dark mirror of yourself, right? He would be like you would imagine, oh my god, he would be so fast, dashing all across the arena, like he would double dash, double jump. He would be so fast, it would be hard to hit him. And I was both terrified and ready for that fight. The only thing the Dark Lord does in common with you is get health through aggression. Like, if the Dark Lord hits you, he gets health. Other than that, he doesn't really do anything else. He's like pretty slow moving, and like, I get it's supposed to feel like a duel, like a 1v1, but like I guess it's like the Marauder fight, but then again, we have the Marauder for that. this is like the final boss of the game. I feel like he should encapsulate what the game is with just frantic movement and battle instead of tracking one enemy, you know? Like, like, I think Samuel Hayden is probably the best boss fight out of the entire um, Doom Eternal game. Because he really brings enemies and pressures you while being like a threat himself. This guy is just on his own, and he summons some spirits that can be killed with a hammer, which I'd rather him just summon the full demon and really just challenge you, you know what I mean? Like really force you to use the meat hook to jump into the air and do all those insane plays. But he doesn't, and he is such a slog to fight. Because he is very slow, the Dark Lord is not aggressive at all, and he takes like what seems like an eternity to flash green before you can finally damage him. So it's just this long slog of waiting for him to flash green before you punish him, and if you get hit once just because you're careless or you're getting bored, then well, he heals back up and you have to do it again. Like the entire fight feels like a slog, and it was such a disconnect from the rest of the game. I was like really surprised. Like, I like the twist that the Dark Lord ended up being God. Honestly, it was kind of funny because like the Doomsayer is like such this badass figure, and then afterwards you find out, oh my god, he is literally the clone of the devil, which is like the second most powerful being in existence. And then the plot twist in the final DLC, the devil himself is the original god, which means Doomslayer is a clone of God himself, the strongest being in existence, and you just keep upping the ante. Like it was funny, and I think it was a good twist, but the fight itself was a slog. Like at the end I found myself not really fighting the Dark Lord. I was just running around using the precision bolt to like get the zombies in Glory Kill that charge my hammer, and just like looking for an opening just to like stun him. I wasn't fighting the Dark Lord, I was waiting. I was playing a waiting game for him to finally let me hit him. And that wasn't engaging, and that felt like a slog. That boss fight was really disappointing in my opinion. But yeah, that's just my thoughts. I finished the DLC about 3 hours ago, then I replayed it, and I played the first level because I felt like the World Spear's escalation encounter was the most fun. So I beat it, and that's probably the gameplay you're seeing in the background right now. I also beat the Emora's escalation encounter, all of it on Nightmare. And yeah, that's just my thoughts on part 2. Overall, it is good, but I was expecting it to like really push the envelope like part 1 did. Like continuing the tone of, you know, feeling badass against all odds, like Lovecraftian. Like in terms of tone and in terms of difficulty. I was expecting the difficulty to really step up, but honestly in some ways the difficulty felt like it stepped down, and I don't really think it's because I got better. Like even if I did, like it just felt too easy, you know. I don't know why. The locations like the World Spear and some parts of Reclaimed Earth and Emora, like once you're inside Hell, those are awesome, right? Overall, I think it's a really strong DLC, but it just doesn't hold a candle to the Ancient Gods Part 1. Because the tone, like, it just completely switched the tone around, the difficulty was out of whack, and like the new enemies just weren't really as punishing and as unforgiving and as brutally challenging as, you know, the Bloodmaker or the Spirit, which, you know, I've come to love to hate those enemies, you know. These enemies are just there, and they're not really putting the pressure on me. I don't really feel them, like, except for maybe the Cursed Prowler, but again, like, he's really underutilized, and I didn't really get enough like encounters with him hitting me, like, to really see that in action. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Ancient Gods Part 2. Again, great DLC. It just can't hold a candle to Part 1, but I really enjoyed my time with DLC, and Doom Eternal, still my favorite game of all time. This doesn't stop anything about it, it's just such a fantastic game. Anyway, that's about it. See ya.
Critical damage.
This is unlike anything we've ever encountered. Not even Urdak gave off readings like this. isn't a crystal at all. It's a ship. I have the location. The Gate of Tavoom locked in.